To the Jets pick, this may be the greatest moment of my entire draft broadcasting career. This is awesome.
With the 11th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Olu Fashanu, tackle, Penn State.
So they go in the direction of protecting Aaron Rodgers rather than handing him another weapon to throw to.
Yeah, they went out and got Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. Those guys are both 33 years old. This is the left tackle of the future. Interested to see if he gets on the field right away, but he is a pure left tackle. If he would have came out in last year's draft, he would have been a top 5 pick. He was coming off a monster year as a very young player, decided to go back to Penn State. You see the anchor and the power, a pure pass protector. You want to try and hit him with a counter move, he can redirect and put the clamps on you. That is his calling card. In the run game, you want to see him be a little more consistent. It was more seal and wall off than really power guys and finish guys, but there was improvement in that area in 23 compared to 22.
And remember, they picked up Tyron Smith. Always has injury issues. You get this kid for the future, and the future may be 2024.
It's Fashanu Week in New York.
With the 11th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Olu Fashanu, tackle, Penn State.
Position, wrong player, right?
There it is. So Olu Fashanu from Penn State is the third offensive lineman off the board, following Joe Alt and J.C. Latham. And here he goes to the New York Jets. And look, you can't argue the need, Lance.
No, the need is there, and now the question becomes, do they play him right away at maybe a guard spot? But I don't really see it. I mean, you got Vera Tucker, you got John Simpson you brought over. This feels like you let him compete maybe against Morgan Moses on the right side, but probably most importantly, you let him learn from Tyron Smith over there. And I kind of like that. I like the fact that he gets to mentor with a guy like Tyron Smith on the left side, provided Tyron's going to provide that leadership, because I don't think Fashanu is ready just yet. I think there's still some. I think there's still
I love that audio. That's awesome.
There's still some holes in his game, but man, from a trait standpoint and an athleticism standpoint, there's a lot to like about Fashanu here.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, like super long, athletic. He has all the traits that you look for in a prototypical left tackle. Hasn't put it all together, but man, the upside is tremendous. And the New York Jets offer a unique situation where they don't need him to start right away. He can sit and learn behind some established vets who've had a lot of success in this league. Nice way to enter him into the league.
21 years old. If he'd come out last year, he might have been the first tackle off the board. We had that conversation. He decides to go back to Penn State, and now he is still the 11th overall pick in the third offensive lineman off the board in the 2024 NFL Draft. So the Denver Broncos are now up next. Where does Sean Payton go when we come back?
With the 12th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Bo Nix.
There it is.
Quarterback, Oregon.
6 for 12. 6 quarterbacks in the first dozen picks.
To quote Rambo, they're all gone, sir.
They're
all 6 of the quarterbacks are gone. Bo Nix, the comparison was Tua because he's got real quick hands, he's very accurate underneath, and he can lay the ball up. Some of the drive throws, that's what people want to see. There is evidence out there of him driving the football. This offense just didn't require it very often. A lot of quick hitters, a lot of balls underneath. But the ability there, he's played a lot of football, started 61 games in college. That's where you see the polish and things like this with ball handling. He's played so much football. The mobility at Auburn, you saw more of. A little sprinkled in here. Didn't have to run it quite as much with this Oregon offense. I thought they would trade down, but I think the fact that the 5 other guys were gone, they weren't going to get cute. That's the moral of the story. Don't get cute this year. Get your guy.
That's the Fam Cam presented by Rocket Mortgage in Alabama. Jackson's Gap, Alabama. Seeing Bo Nix celebrating with his friends and family, and with the Raiders right after. Maybe they would have gone there. Who knows? But Sean Payton sends Russell Wilson packing. He's now in Pittsburgh, and it's Bo Nix a couple days after they acquire Zach Wilson via trade, and we all know Jarrett Stidham is in their quarterback room, and that's the way they're going to go into the season with a monster dead cap number hanging over them over the next couple of years that they're paying off from the Russell Wilson trade and the Russell Wilson contract, on which Russell Wilson played a grand total of 0 downs for Denver.
2024 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Bo Nix, quarterback, Oregon.
Well, now you know why the quarterback coach in the draft room was getting very excited. He's got his new quarterback. It is Bo Nix. Bucky, take us through why he's appealing to Sean Payton.
Bo Nix is appealing because when you look at the Drew Brees prototype, Bo Nix kind of feels it when it comes to an experienced player, really accurate on the intermediate range, connects the dots, does an excellent job of getting the ball to the playmakers. And the experience matters. The experience of being able to understand coverage, we have a lot thrown at him. He's worked through that. Lance, we've talked about it also, the adversity. He had to work through some adversity at Auburn to now make his way to Oregon and to dominate when he played in Pacific Northwest. To me, it makes a lot of sense for Sean Payton because this is an experienced playmaker with the athleticism and the arm talent to execute his system.
So Bo Nix is really pretty slept on with the season he had this year. He had a terrific season at Oregon, and one of the things that stands out about what Bo Nix, and love seeing the celebration here, boy, it's got to be earlier than anyone anticipated in terms of 6 quarterbacks going. But Bo Nix, to me, from a tape standpoint, it goes number 1, Jaden Daniels, number 2, Bo Nix for this year. That's how much I like this tape.
45 touchdowns and 3 picks.
If you like a 45-3 quarterback touchdown to interception ratio. But the thing about Bo Nix that really stands out to me is you saw some of it with the Exos there that we showed you. His pinpoint accuracy, he is a very accurate passer, much more so than I ever expected to see. Look, I went into watching his tape and I remembered Auburn Bo Nix. And I said, am I going to see Auburn Bo Nix? What I saw was a guy with much more poise. I saw really pinpoint accuracy. You see some arm talent in these throws. He can get it out at some difficult arm angles. And Bo Nix, in terms of the A to B throws, getting the ball where it needs to be on time and getting it there accurately with good placement, there's no question that's something he really shines at. I think at the Senior Bowl, I saw the happy feet a little bit. I didn't think he had as much juice in the arm at the combine as what I thought I saw on tape, so that was something that made me question it a little bit. But I don't know that and I don't know that you need it as much though with Sean Payton, because Sean Payton's passing game, Bucky, really helps him out in that regard.
If we use the Drew Brees model, it was very dink and dunk-esque the last few years with the Saints, and so he can control the game like that. But don't underestimate his football IQ, and don't underestimate the relationship with Davis Webb. Davis Webb was an Elite 11 counselor, may have had some experience going all the way back to his time mentoring Bo Nix when Bo Nix was coming through. Those relationships matter, and being able to connect on the whiteboard. We talked about Bo Nix being able to dominate that part of it. The experience allows him to do it. I think he understands the coach speak that might have been bandied around in those meetings, which may have made him the favorite when the Broncos were looking at a quarterback to go get.
Seen a lot of ball. 61 starts in college football. Has started every game that he has played, going back to his Auburn days, where he started 13 as a true freshman and a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school, where his dad had played, had dealt with that kind of situation there at Auburn, and then finally found a home there where he could really showcase his skill set with the Oregon Ducks and absolutely performed to the best of his abilities.
So there's a lot on the line here.
With the 13th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia.
All right. So Brock Bowers is going to the Raiders. And what do you think of this pick?
Well, this is value here. This is my 7th overall player, big-time player. It came down to position value. I think that's why you see him available right here. But when you've watched college football over the last few years and you've watched Georgia, he's the best player on the field in every single one of their games. What he does with the ball in his hands, the run after catch. One of their coaches said if we put this guy at tailback, he'd be our best tailback on our roster. There's some of the route ability, be able to shake defenders and get free, catching in traffic, making big plays down the field. He does that as well. I believe if he had a clean process, if he had been healthy through the entire spring, run a 40, do all those things, he wouldn't have been here for the Raiders. This is a big-time weapon that's going to pair up with a pretty darn good receiver they have there in Vegas.
When you look at the last 8 Super Bowl winners, what you'll see is that, primarily speaking, their best offensive pass-catching threat owns the middle of the field, operates in the middle of the field. I'm talking about Cooper Kupp, Gronk, Travis Kelce. That's the type of player that you need, and that's the type of player that Brock Bowers is. I understand the whole positional value thing, and all those guys I just mentioned were not first-round picks, but he is a dynamic player, and I also think that he can get down there in line and block.
I like that the Raiders didn't let Michael.
In the 2024 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia.
So this is best player available, plain and simple. Took Michael Mayer in the second round last year, was a quality rookie player for them, a guy you'd expected to develop, but now, I mean, this is a clear example of best player available.
This is best player available. This is Brock Bowers being on your draft board, flashing like a blinking light because he probably was graded as a top 5 player there. This is also being willing to, hey, how can we think about our offense differently? Yes, we took Michael Mayer, who's a good player, but now we can put 2 tight ends on the field.
Yep.
Maybe we can run the football. Maybe this is AP's influence on what is difficult and challenging to face in the defense. But to me, this dude is spectacular. Outstanding route runner, playmaker, versatile, can line up anywhere in the formation as a tight end. Terrific with the ball in his hands, has the niceness and feistiness to be able to block on the perimeter. Not many holes in his game. You put him with the Raiders. Now you put it on the offensive coordinator, Luke Gessie. Get creative. Find a way to get him and Mayer on the field together.
Nice and feisty. I like the combination. So he played at Georgia. He's got a winning background. He's got the Kirby, smart, hard coaching element behind him. I'm sure Antonio Pierce loves that. But the other thing with him is he is an elite yard after catch option. And so what he does for quarterbacks is if you need an outlet, ask Stetson Bennett this as Stetson Bennett was continuing to build his confidence in their championship season. You got a guy who can run the seam in the 4-5s and beat linebackers, or he can catch the little drag route underneath that they like to run. At Georgia, you just dink it and dunk it off to him 2 and 3 yards in front of the line of scrimmage and let him roll because he runs like a running back. He's got amazing contact balance. He is very physical to drag through a couple extra. This is their favorite play to run at Georgia. And once he's got the ball in his hands, good luck getting him down. They won't get him down on this play. I've seen it like 8 times. He's on the sideline. They can't get him down. I've seen it so many times. And so what you have here is a quarterback's best friend. And I'm sure it's making some other teams sick who kept saying, oh, my God.
Maybe he's coming.
Brock
Maybe he's
is
coming.
falling.
Yeah.
Brock is falling.
No.
Well, the
He
fall's
is
over.
Headed to Las Vegas.
With the 14th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Taliese Fuaga, tackle, Oregon State.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, for me, he was right behind Joe Alt. I just loved watching him and the temperament and the physicality with which he plays as you see him getting a little emotional there. Powerful and nasty, and usually when you have those first 2 things, you'll see guys are on the ground a bunch. He stays off the ground. He's got excellent balance. Played right tackle there at Oregon State, a very physical program, and he was a poster child. He got penalties, which I was trying to figure out why there were penalties. I think they just looked so mean that they decided to throw a flag on him.
Is that like Michael Orr? He just blocked it too long?
That's not fair. Here he is. Watch him just finish guys, then gives you a little extra there at the bottom once he gets you on the ground. Competed at the Senior Bowl. Could have sat that out, just waited and gone through the rest of the draft process. Instead, he shows up down there in Mobile, Alabama, goes against some of the top rushers and is outstanding. Here he is against Latu from UCLA, one of the top pass rushers in this draft, and he puts him on the ground. He aced every test through the whole process. I'd give him straight A's from start to finish.
Do you see him flipping from right to left? Because we just saw the Senior Bowl tape taking those shots at right. I've mentioned Penning, who's been a disappointment for them at left tackle. Do you see Fuaga going left, or do you see him staying on the right side?
With the potential of them needing 2, I'd just leave him at the right side where he's comfortable and where he's played.
I just love seeing a guy develop. I mean, think about it. He went to a dreadful high school program. They won 5 games in 4 years. 5. That's it. So he was only the 130th ranked offensive tackle in his recruiting class. And now here he is as a first-round draft pick. Tough guy. Jonathan Smith, his head coach, talked about his work ethic, his toughness, and a tone setter for that offense.
Yeah, Smith is now here in this stage for Michigan State.
Oh, and, well, Lance, you had it spot on there. 14th overall player goes with the 14th overall pick.
And he is tough. He's aggressive. He's big. He is incredibly technically sound. The thing that stands out to me is he can push you around in the run game, no question. And you're going to see a lot of it. The backside cutoff, they did a lot of outside zone stuff. So he's well versed in terms of finding his landmarks as a run blocker. And that's a lot of what you're seeing right here is getting out to the second level, getting your cutoff blocks. But what makes him special to me is the quick hands. The punch is direct. He plays with inside hands. The pass set, he always has his chin tucked. He's got the ability to play off of those spin moves, and that's because he's well balanced. There's not a bunch of lean. What struck me when I watched him was, man, this guy, this is coaching tape. Like, this is teaching tape right here from a pass pro standpoint, because his technique is just outstanding. So when he gets into the league, he's not going to have those issues like Trevor Penning had, where he had to kind of feel his way moving up from the SCS level and trying to figure it out. He still hasn't figured it out. Yeah. Fuaga's already got it figured out, in my opinion.
Yeah, he does get it figured out. And I'll say this, having watched the New Orleans Saints up close, they needed some toughness. They needed some physicality. This is a team that maybe is a little on the softer side. He adds some of that nastiness that they needed. So this is a nice pick for them. They need to get back to running the football and being able to do some of those things to protect Derek Carr, but more importantly, to impose their will on their opponent.
You know, I also look at this. I love the celebration there for Talisa Fuanga. And, you know, this is an interesting one. You know, Ryan Ramczyk, as Dennis Allen came out at the annual league meeting, said, hey, look, we're a little concerned here, not where he wants to be in terms of potential for return from the rehab and the injury that he faced this year. As you mentioned, Penning, jury's still out there. Also, James Hurst retired this week. They're starting left guard. And this is a player in Fuanga who could also make a transition interior, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But, you want Trevor Penning to figure it out.
Sure, take the reins, be the guy.
Yeah, absolutely, because, if you can start a guy, Laramie Tunsil, he started at left guard in Miami and became that left tackle. I think that what he's going to give you an opportunity to do right away is he gives you that guard tackle flexibility. You just want players who can play right away if you can find them.
All right, here's the Colts pick.
With the 15th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Laiatu, defensive end, UCLA.
So it is Latu coming out of the green room. He is an Indianapolis Colt.
There is defense in the NFL.
And he is the first defensive player selected in the 2024 NFL Draft.
And DJ, think about his path. He was just now the first defensive player taken in this draft, and it was just a few years ago when he was at the University of Washington. He had to medically retire from the sport. It was a second chance to get to UCLA. Imagine the emotion that he's going through right now.
Remember what doctor cleared him? Peyton Manning's doctor, who cleared Peyton to come back and play in the NFL. And he wears 15, DJ. Jalen Phillips wore 15 coming out and followed a similar path where he was medically not cleared and had to change schools, get cleared, and make it to the NFL.
We'll get to the football in just a second. I am so happy for this guy. He was on his way to being a firefighter. He was thinking football was in his past, not in his future. He got a second opportunity, and talk about making the most of it there at UCLA. 2 phenomenal years. Here he's the 15th pick in the NFL Draft. That is impressive that he stuck with it, that he put in the work, and I'm so pumped to see him rewarded, and that smile on his face is well deserved.
I mean, the production in 2 years after he got down to UCLA was off the charts, guys. You could not keep him out of the backfield. He had 23.5 sacks, 34 tackles for loss. The guy was as productive as any edge rusher in college football.
And the most tools in the bag, right, DJ, in terms of the 3 top
He's got the most pitches
we talked about, right? He's the guy who can throw the changeup, throw the off speed, bring the fastball, and occasionally you see that bull rush when he had people off balance. So you saw a lot there. I do think there's a lot of that Jalen Phillips in him. Yeah. The numbers, the body type, the path of getting here, and now he's in Indianapolis, and your guys were right. He's going to chase
you were
TJ Stroud
about
Houston.
You were talking about the emotion while you guys were talking there. The commissioner showed Latu his name on the jersey for the first time, and he took a step back, put his hand over his mouth like, oh gosh, like this is actually happening. That's a cool moment right there.
What a journey. Let's get to the video. Talked about him as a person and what he's overcome. How about the ability on the field? He's got the most diverse plan of attack, to what Charles was saying. Trey Hendrickson, a real natural feel as a rusher. That was a comparison. You watch him against UCLA, watch the hands. He is a hand technician. You give him your hands as a tackle, he's going to swipe them away, and he can bend at the top of his rush. Again, look at him run that loop. We do the loop at the combine. That is why you can replicate what you see there. Kick him inside, let him beat up on some of these guards, not a problem. Again, he went to the Senior Bowl. He competed throughout the entire process. There he is winning inside. You overset, he's going to win. He's the most natural rusher in the draft. And I think at the end of the day, in a passing league, the most natural rusher is the first defensive player off the board.
Latu is an unbelievable rusher, and when we get to take a look at his XOs, you'll see what we're talking about.
Time for Best Value presented by Verizon, and that value goes to Chris Ballard in the Indianapolis Colts by taking the first defender, first edge rusher, and it's Laiatu Latu. Let's take a look here, Bucky, at what we love about Latu's game, kind of the details of that technician piece of it.
So we talk about having a bag. We talk about the bend and burst that he displays right there, the hand skills. You see it all from him. Dip and rip, swipe, up and under. He has all that. He can play outside and inside. There's an inside rusher being able to get home. We saw it in the Senior Bowl. Here we go, dip and rip, nonstop, relentless competitor. Love the stamina that he displays. This dude just is a nonstop Energizer bunny coming off the edge. He's a handful for blockers, and when he's revved up, you talk about the Indianapolis Colts where Gus Bradley likes to make it simple for the players so they can just go and hunt. Latu is a perfect fit because remember, he had a lot of success with Yannick Ngakoue in Jacksonville when he was an edge rusher. Latu has even better skills.
Good point there. 23 and a half sacks the last 2 years after he was medically retired
2 years of football
at Washington.
2 years of football, 23 and a half sacks. And talking to him, it's amazing because he just tells you he doesn't go in with a plan. He just reacts off what the offensive tackle's feet are showing him and their weight distribution shows him. That's advanced level rush right there.
With the 16th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Byron Murphy, defensive tackle, Texas.
There's now officially a run on defensive players.
It's arrived.
So Byron Murphy is now going to the middle of the defensive line in Seattle. And as this pick gets announced, Minnesota just traded up into the Jacksonville Jaguars spot 17th overall, giving up a 3 and a 4 next year and a 5 later on in this draft. But we'll get to that in a second to talk about this kid from Texas going to Seattle.
This is the best defensive tackle in the draft. Leverage and quickness. Very disruptive. You talk about the ability to penetrate and make plays. He can do that. You want to double team him. Watch his knee almost goes to the ground. He's got unbelievable core strength. Be able to drop that knee down and anchor down. Stacking and shedding blocks. Some guys hang on blocks and create a pile. He gets off blocks and goes and make tackles. Playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage in the run game, he's almost impossible to cut off when he's on the backside of a run play. He just beats blockers to spots. But this is the calling card. Only 5 sacks. Doesn't seem like a huge number, but a highly disruptive player. Joel, let me give you a couple numbers here this offseason. Chris Jones, 5 years, $158 million. Christian Wilkins, 4 years, $110. Matabike, 4 for $98. Derek Brown, 4 for $96. This is a league that values defensive tackles, and this is a very good one.
And it's a coach who really values defensive tackles. Mike McDonald comes from that Baltimore tree. He was at Michigan for a year, then with the Baltimore Ravens. And when he builds a defense, he builds it front to back and inside out. The first thing that they need to do is build a run wall up front before they can get to the
birds chirped, and I guess they were right on that one. Boy, there's a lot of defensive tackles over there, aren't there?
A lot of them, but versatility. When you have a lot, that means you can auction off and get back what you need.
Bucky, what kind of defense are we running over there?
I think they're gonna run a hybrid defense. They got all those defensive tackles. They can do a bunch of things. But I will
Leonard
say,
Williams can play that 5, right?
Aaron
Reed out there 5. And they put the nose, Byron in the nose.
Yeah, they can do some fun stuff. This dude is super explosive, great hand skills, plays with the energy, kind of reckless in terms of the middle, creates havoc and chaos, like the disruptive plays. And what we know about Mike McDonald, he knows how to make it work. He made it work last year with Baltimore when they didn't really have a pure pass rush and found a way to get it done. He'll find a way to create one-on-one opportunities for Byron Murphy, and you'll see the rest of those guys also benefit from his presence.
Tremendous tester. First step quickness is really unmatched from interior rushers this year and really in many of the years. And the other thing that really stands out about Byron Murphy is that whether it's first down or third down, he has a chance to penetrate and cause real problems for overmatched interior linemen. If you are not an athletic interior lineman, you're going to have major issues with Byron Murphy, snap in and snap out. And when you have that kind of penetrator who's also strong at the point of attack, that now creates offensive lines have to slide protections to help you out. They have to account for you with certain run plays. Certain run plays are going to be scrapped, especially when you have guys like Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed who can stack and shed you. So this is, I like the pick because Mike Mack's saying, hey, we're going to play some defense. Finally, we got somebody trying to play some defense in pro football.
Only been two trades tonight, and Minnesota's pulled off both of them. And let's see who they'll add to the mix with J.J. McCarthy.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have traded the 17th pick to the Minnesota Vikings. With the 17th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Dallas Turner, linebacker, Alabama.
So Dallas Turner, who sacked J.J. McCarthy in the Rose Bowl, is coming out of the green room right now to be a teammate of JJ's. And the edge rusher from Alabama, who many people penciled in to go to Georgia 8th overall as the first defensive player taken, is now coming out of the green room as the third defensive player taken in a row after 14 offensive players started our night.
This tells you what type of night it's been. In the back of my mind, I assume Dallas Turner's gone.
Already gone.
I didn't even have. We're going and looking at names. I'm thinking, okay, who's going to be there for him? And I got to go all the way up to the very top of the edge rusher list. They're the number one edge rusher in the draft, and they're able to reel him in as well as getting their quarterback. That's a job well done.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too, which is why I mentioned his teammate and Terrion Arnold. Right church, wrong pew. He is coming out and holding up a purple jersey to, we're assuming, complete the Minnesota Vikings night. They came in with 2 first-round draft choices. They used them, but not in the spots where they originally had them. 2 draft trades tonight. It's Minnesota moving up twice, and Dallas Turner's the guy now.
He's going to get a chance to play on a fast track there in that dome as well. Brian Burns, think about the juice, the burst, the get-off that he has. He's now a New York Giant. Dallas Turner, similar type of player. Ridiculous length. I mean, he's got rare arm length. Uses those arms to be able to reel guys in. He's got tremendous lateral range. The take on to me was fine. Some teams had a concern with it. I didn't have an issue with it. He's able to hold his ground, take on blocks. You saw it there. That inside long arm working against Georgia, that's his calling card as a rusher. Able to pry that shoulder open and then get inside. And then once he gets to the high side of the rush, there's that burst and bend to finish, CD.
And one thing about Alabama players, as you guys all know, when you played for Nick Saban, it's 4th and 1 every day.
So there it is. Bit of a fall for Dallas Turner as he exits the draft room, just based on mock drafts, based on buzz from the draft community. And clearly the Minnesota Vikings had value attached to Dallas Turner's name because they traded up 6 spots after seeing he was still available after the Seattle Seahawks made their selection. So Turner is a 6'2" and change player, but a massive 83-inch wingspan. So he's got the length to keep those offensive linemen's hands off him, out of his chest. He uses those arms to his advantage, which we'll show you here shortly. But was a double-digit sack artist here, teaming up with a guy who will probably hear come off the board tomorrow, and Chris Braswell for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Definitely wreaks some havoc in the SEC this year. So, Lance, you kind of thought this might be the pick as well. He ends up being the 7th player on your board, and so some good value here, plus 10 in value if you look at it that way for the Vikings.
It really is, and what you have is this rare length that you talked about. And the reason that's important is because first in is usually the winner, and if you can get first in with your hands, and when you have a wingspan of a 7-footer, you're going to be first in a lot of times against those tackles. He has the loose lower body that allows him to get up and around the corner. That insane burst up the field gives him the ability to really rock tackles on their back foot whenever he's rushing. But the other thing he does is he'll play the run now. And if you're going to play for Nick Saban and Alabama, you can't not play the run. That's a necessity. You have to be tough enough. Now, he's not Will Anderson playing the run, but he's a willing take-on guy, and he has the ability to range to the sideline and cut off those outside running plays. And when it comes to rushing the passer, the strip sack ability with his, just the ability to flat out get off the ball and immediately put tackles in reverse. That sets up inside moves, sets up stab move counters. These are moves he's going to develop more.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, he's the traiciest rusher of all of the rushers when it comes to his athletic profile. The athletic profile of a wide receiver, frankly.
Yeah. And look, when I think about this defense, Bucky, an attack-minded defense with Brian Flores, you unleash a 4.4 speed guy with an 83-inch wingspan, that fits.
He absolutely fits. He's a freak athlete who has outstanding first step quickness. He can bend and burst. He's versatile enough to be able to play with force or finesse off the edge. Nonstop motor. Played in a very complicated defense, so he can play in a high leverage scheme. This is a really, really good player. And for Brian Flores, what they do in the back end with that myriad of cover zero where they're always challenging and testing the IQ of the quarterback, well, now you're going to create some free rushes for a guy who is a dominant playmaker and pass rusher off the edge.
With the 18th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Amarius Mims, tackle, Georgia.
That is one large bulldog making his way to Cincinnati.
And so you see the size up there, 6'7", 340 pounds. He is massive, and he is not fat. I mean, it is well put together. Limited starts, only 8 starts. When you go back and watch him in 2022 in this game against Ohio State, you see everything you need to see. There's not as much volume as some of these other offensive linemen, but he's got excellent feet, excellent balance. You see him using his hands here, showing you the awareness to be able to pick up that twist. This game showed you what you needed to see. Now, you have to be a little bit risky here because there's not a large body of work. But when you talk to the folks down there at Georgia, they say all the talent they've had on that offensive line, this is the most gifted pass protector they've had. He would go weeks and weeks without losing a one-on-one, and those are all defensive linemen, NFL players he's going up against in practice.
Well, he's a large body at work, you could basically say, and time for the fam cam presented by Rocket Mortgage. There's the moment where Marius Mims found out he's going to be a Cincinnati Bengal. And interestingly enough, we talk about how, large he is. He's the third largest offensive lineman in Cincinnati. Is Orlando Brown, 6'8", 345, Trent Brown, 6'8", 355. So, he'll finally wind up in a spot where he feels like a pipsqueak. Is that what we're saying right now?
but doesn't that fit, though, that they picked up Trent Brown and Amarius Mims with 8 career college starts? They can afford to bring him along a little bit slower if Trent Brown can jump in and play before Mims gets turns loose.
But why'd they miss the playoffs? Because Burrow wasn't there. If he's there, they're going to be in the playoffs. So how do you keep him there? Pass protector.
Protect him.
Yeah, put him on him right now so he doesn't get hurt in the preseason and miss all preseason work because they end up starting slow because he's not able to be there. We need Joe Burrow there.
18th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Amarius Mims, tackle, Georgia.
All right, Bucky, mountain of a man. Hit us with it.
You said it there. You said it right there. A mountain of a man. Massive. Doesn't have a lot of experience, but has a lot of talent. You see in a very small sample size, this dude can dominate at the point of attack. Long, rangy, has a mauler brawler mentality and playing style. And you just understand in Cincinnati, you put him at right tackle, this guy is going to have a lot of success. I know you have Orlando Brown playing at left tackle, but on the right side, where you kind of want to run the football a little bit, this guy is going to be a people mover, kind of like what the Cincinnati Bengals are doing, trying to reestablish a little physicality and toughness at the point of attack.
So he's like a really good athlete too. We saw it at the combine. It was like whoa. And with Amarius Mims, what you get is a player who the only real concern on him is injury. He has had some injury issues. Staying healthy has been a concern. And, that's got to be a little bit of a concern for Cincinnati. But when it comes to size, it's hard to get around him. He has great length. He's very, very powerful. And his upside is extraordinarily high. It's the injuries that concern you a little bit.
All right, let's paint a better picture of what Amarius Mims is. Here's a player comparison presented by Pizza Hut. Lance Zerline, who does Amarius Mims remind you of?
Yeah, Jordan Mailata. And you remember, he's a guy who came over, Mailata came over as a rugby player and has quickly developed into a really impressive left tackle. He was a special athlete with special size and traits, and that's the same thing we're looking at right now from Amarius Mims. Now, Mailata didn't have any real experience and moved over to one of the hardest positions to play in pro football, the left tackle spot. But you saw right there, he can get out in space, so can Amarius Mims. He has great length and strength, so does Amarius Mims. So there is a lot to like about that comparison between the two. I think the difference is, Mims comes in with a pedigree with Stacy Searles, the offensive line coach, and those Georgia Bulldogs. And, hey, he's got a background for winning.
With the 19th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Jared Verse, defensive end, Florida State.
Yeah, they got some juice. I mean, you're not going to be able to replace Aaron Donald, but it can be a collective group effort. And this is a rugged, physical pass rusher. I've made this comment about Jared Verse throughout the process. He comes in clear packaging. There's making no mistakes about who he is and what he's about. He is a bully on the edge. He is explosive with his hands and his feet. He's a little bit lower version of Will Anderson, who we saw go last year and be the Rookie of the Year with the Houston Texans. But he's going to test your brakes. You want to go to the car dealership and test your brakes for free? He will test the brakes of offensive tackles for free across the NFL. Watch this. He's just running them right back into the quarterback. That's what he does. He also has the speed. He'll mix that in, try and win at the top of the rush. But more than anything else, he's going to go through your pads. The quickness shows up against the run. He can hold up the front side, and then he can be disruptive on the backside as well. But a very rugged, physical football player, showing you the effort to get right back off the ground there. I'm a big fan of his game, CD.
With the 19th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Jared Verse, defensive end, Florida State.
Now just makes so much sense. The value here, Bucky, is huge.
Yeah, the value made a lot of sense, but more importantly, the player makes sense. You see it in the tombstone, bully. This dude is a bully off the edge, explosive first step quickness. He is a power player. When I liken him, not making the player comparison to Khalil Mack, but he uses Khalil Mack's playing style to be able to get it done. You see him put his hand right in the middle of the blocker's chest, and he is going to use a two-way go to be able to get to the quarterback. Super explosive, super dynamic, and productive at every level. First at Albany, then for 2 years at Florida State. This dude had 18 sacks and a bunch of tackles for loss. He is a productive player who's going to fit right in to this Rams scheme.
When you watched him coming up from Albany, his first game was against LSU, not this last year, but the year before, and it didn't look too big for him in game one. He really flashed right away and then kept getting better and better. Jared Verse is a grown man. Reminds me of Lamar Woodley when Woodley came out of the Pittsburgh Steelers, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is much more physical than his size. I think he's going to ultimately play around 260 pounds, but he has elite explosiveness into first contact. And it's not just as a speed to power rusher. It's also at the point of attack where he plays so much bigger and longer than you think he's going to. He doesn't have long arms, but he's so fast into the tackle that he gets into the tackle first almost every single time at the point of attack. He's got the sweet arm over that he just showed there that can beat you from a penetration standpoint as a rusher or as a run defender. He showed what kind of athlete he was at the combine. But I think more than anything, he's tough. This is a bad boy. Now, he is going to get after you every single snap, and I like the toughness and the edge that he gives the Rams.
Tonight, 32 young men will embark on their NFL career, striving to make an impact on the field. But their impacts will be felt far beyond their field, but in their communities. No one embodied that more than Walter Payton. And today, the league's highest honor, the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide, recognizes his lasting legacy. Tonight, we are proud to welcome the 2023 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year winner, Cam Hayward.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Commissioner. And most importantly, I want to say thank you to the Payton family, the NFL, and Nationwide. The NFL Draft is special. To my fellow NFL players and the prospects joining the league this week, I want to challenge you. Use your platform to brighten someone's day. The opportunity before you is a gift. And by coming here and being in this league, seize that moment. Be better in our communities, be better for our league and our world. Thank you so much. Here we go. And with the 20th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Troy Fautanu, tackle, Washington.
There you go.
Now they got themselves a tackle for the second year in a row. Broderick Jones last year out of Georgia. Here they go to Washington. As you see, a very emotional Troy Fautanu. That is a cool moment to see him take this in. As he's going to love playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his play style very much fits with the way the Pittsburgh Steelers love to play football. Watch him taking this all in. Very versatile. I think he's got 5-position flexibility. Elijah Vera Tucker's who he reminded me coming out of USC. Elijah Vera Tucker's played some guard, played some tackle. I think the Steelers, they announced him as a tackle, and that's where they'll let him compete. He is very athletic out of his stance. He explodes out of his stance. Watch his feet once he gets out there. Boom, quick feet, quick hands, and a jolting punch. Outstanding athleticism and anchor. Look at how low he's able to drop his weight right there and squat down versus a power rusher. Out in space, excellent. Think about those screens to Najee Harris out in space with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jaylen Warren as well. They're going to have some fun using his very versatile skill set.
And with the 20th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Troy Fautanu, tackle, Washington.
All right, there it is. The wait is over for Troy Fautanu from Washington, the anchor Lance Zierlein of the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, given to the top O-line in college football this past year.
He is very, very physical, and I'm a member of the selection committee for the Joe Moore Awards. And when we watched, it just every single time, 55 just kept popping up. He's got the body type of a classic tough guy guard who can move a little bit, but when you watch him at tackle at 34 inches, I just think he can end up staying out at tackle, whether it's left tackle, right tackle, or guard. And I think the Steelers are going to give him a chance to win the left tackle. Well, actually, I think they're going to swing him to right tackle, bring Broderick over to the left side is my guess. And if that happens, I think they've got a mauler brawler for years to come. He is a very physical run blocker, but what he gives you is that old school Steeler toughness. It's been missing for a while from the offensive line where they could just get downhill on you, pound the rock, and go. This is your first chance to go back to old school Steeler football, I mean, in a long, long time. But I think with the two bookend tackles that you've just taken in back-to-back drafts, I think you give yourself a real chance.
You give yourself a real chance. And remember, Arthur Smith takes over this offense. They're going to run the football. Arthur Smith is committed to running the football. You think about the personnel that they have in the backfield, Najee Harris, they want to be able to kind of impose their will. And even with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields coming over, it is still about the quarterback being a complement to what is a physical running game that complements a defense that sets the tone with turnovers and short fields.
Yeah, and that Texas game, by the way, you could see, like, this is Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy we're talking about at Texas. And Fautanu was really getting after those guys with down blocks, moving people around on the goal line. So he's a guy that I think Steeler fans are going to really, really like. And worst case scenario, he'll be your starting left guard for years to come as well. So I like those two. Players need to have 2-position flexibility. I think he probably has 3-position flexibility: left tackle, right tackle, and left guard.
The versatility matters. Physicality, toughness. He fits the brand. He gives them what they're trying to recreate, which is that physical, imposing presence at the point of attack.
And this was not a Steelers standard in terms of pass protection. Production from the offensive line over the course of the last couple of years. Probably same goes in terms of run blocking as well. Get a little bit of both here as they continue to upgrade that with GM Omar Khan and head coach Mike Tomlin now working with new quarterbacks and a brand new offensive lineman in Troy Fautanu.